Hey everybody, this is Perch and answering a viewer question. And holy shit, I'm so glad to get this question. By the way, please let me know in the comments if me cursing is a problem. I don't know. Every now and then I get these messages like, "Hey Perch, I'm listening to your videos with my wife and kids," and then you start saying "fuck," and it's awkward. Is that common? Are a lot of you doing that? If a lot of you do, I can tone it down. I can definitely tone down the language here if you're there with your kids. I don't want I understand. I'm a parent. I don't want somebody dropping f bombs around my kids all the time. So somebody should let me know that. Anyway, this question is awesome because it's really short and it's great. It's like I've been waiting for this question for years. And here's the question: Dear Perch, you seem like a pretty level-headed guy. What annoys you? I get the sense that you get angry about things, but you don't really want to say. So what makes you angry? Thanks. No, no. Thank you. Thank you for answering this answer. Thank you for asking this question. This is wonderful. I admit this question came in a little bit ago, and I've been like waiting on it. So, what annoys me? Like everything, almost everything. If you've been listening to the videos for a long time, a lot of this stuff probably won't be a surprise to you. But the things that irritate me about comics, um, uh, unforced errors, number one on that list. Things that are easily avoidable. This is where you have a choice. You're like, okay, I'm standing here at a crossroads. I can make a good decision, or I could make a really stupid decision. And people like go to that second option. They're like, you know what? I'm going to go to that stupid. You know what would be right? For example, by the way, I've known lots of creators over time, and I don't really like. I talk to these people, and I'm like, I don't think you're not like a great person. For me, there's been different evolutions in how I kind of assess people. Like I meet somebody and I'm like, I would let you stay at my house. Okay, that was like the first step. And I was like, I would let you watch my children. You know, when I had children, that's another step. This requires a lot of trust. And so generally when I meet somebody, not right off the bat, but I mean, remember back, by the way, in the 90s, there was this big push to say you shouldn't judge people. Judging people is wrong, except that's an impossible thing to do. Everyone judges everyone right out the gate. The trick is to have an open mind to have your opinion changed. So you meet somebody, you get some initial assessments, and then you keep your mind open to change those assessments if new information, new data comes in. Everybody is like this. Anybody who says otherwise is lying to you. Everybody always has various judgments, and they kick in immediately as people. Like you walk into a Starbucks, there's a total stranger in front of you, and that stranger is standing there and they can't figure out what it is they want to drink for coffee. And they're going, I don't know. Do I want the latte, or do I want the mocha, or do I want some tea? I don't know. And they're verbalizing all this, and you're standing behind the person listening to all this, and you're immediately judging the shit out of them. That absolutely is happening every time. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just normal human behavior. The trick is that you don't let that judgment completely dictate kind of what you're going to do with this person in the future. So, in many cases, I meet comic creators, I meet people at cons, I talk to various people, and I'm hoping for the best. Here's where I'm probably the glass half full kind of person, because even if my instinct is telling me, well, this person is a train wreck, I'm hoping that they pull it out. I want to be proven wrong. I think there's probably something that goes on in human nature where some people kind of hope for a bad outcome and some people hope for a good outcome. I always hope for a good outcome. I do want good things to happen. I want to be proven wrong. Nothing, I will say I get a weird little joy, and I know it's strange, when I say this comic is going to suck and be terrible, and then it turns out to be good. I feel like this strange, I don't know if joy is the right word, but the strange little happy feeling that I was wrong. It's a good thing. I like being wrong. I do not have a happy feeling when I say, well, this is going to be a complete, absolute mess, and then it is a mess. I feel like this cold certainty, yep, I was right, and I hate that fact. I hate the fact that I was right, and that this thing I thought was going to suck turned out to suck. I get no joy from that. There are other people who do. On the internet, there are plenty of people out there who predict disaster, and then when disaster comes, they just like the biggest erection in the world. They're just super happy that everything went to hell. But for me, I don't. If I predict disaster and disaster comes, I always feel like something was lost in the world, like a bad thing happened. That's always how I feel. So I meet people, and every now and then, somebody will come up to me, and a lot of people, I think I have a face or a personality, or I don't know what it is. I wish somebody would explain it to me someday. That tells people, hey, I want to get advice from this person. You're going to give me some advice. So people ask me for advice all the time, and I don't mind that. I'm happy to give it. If I have some value to pass along, I will pass it along. So I say, sure, I'll give you some suggestions, some advice. And sometimes people will say things like, well, here's a real world example from an artist. I often talk about writers or editors. Let me talk about artists for a second. And the artist goes, well, I've got a comic assignment, and I signed on to do this thing, and I don't really feel comfortable with what it is that I need to draw. I don't feel like it's not in my wheelhouse. And so I'm going to lean heavily on, light table tracing for this. And, what would you suggest for stock photography? And this is a real, I swear to God, an honest conversation I have. Like, my suggestion is don't. My suggestion is, if you're going to use photo reference, it's fine. Pull it up on your computer, put it up on the monitor, and then draw it separately. But don't like put what you're going to do on a layer and then trace it and then try and flip it, like flip horizontal and shift it. They're like, don't do that. You're not. It's going to feel very soulless. And I've always had a trouble explaining this because I've had this question a few times around how you can use digital to make art easier. And I always say, if you're tracing, full on tracing, your work feels less. It feels hollow. It doesn't, like, you can't quite capture the spirit and the imagination and the shadows, and you can't, it doesn't come off right. And if you try little things to kind of hide the fact that you traced it by flipping the art and all the other stuff, it won't work. And I've given that advice, and sometimes I've got my iPad with me, and I pull that. I'm like, let me show you what I mean. Here's how that will be weird for you. And one time I was doing this, the same conversation, and I'm showing them, and the guy's like, what program are you using there? And I'm like, oh, this is an Autodesk program. This is what I'm using. And the guy's like, oh, wow, it's really easy to flip and kind of warp the image, so it hides the original. I'm like, okay, you're getting the wrong lesson out of what I'm showing you here. No, don't do this. This is wrong. What you're doing, it's not morally wrong. It's just you won't get a good result. And the person's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And I spend like an hour having this conversation with somebody, really like, here's what you should do. You should do this other thing. Look, I've helped people out in the past. I've given them advice. This is where it's worked. This is where it hasn't worked. And then like a month later, this is again a real story. A month later, the guy comes back and goes, well, yeah, I traced it, and they wound up walking away from the comic. They said it looked like I was tracing, and yeah, so I didn't get that gig. I'm like, you jackass. That was an unforced. That was you. I spent all this time with you explaining why that was a bad idea, and you did it anyway. That's like, what are you doing? It's the same kind of thing where I've gone out to parties with people, and sometimes I've left a con floor with a handful of writers, artists, editors. And I had an editor once tell me, like, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I'm going to stick with you tonight. And I'm like, well, that's a terrible idea because I drink. And they're like, no, but I had a reputation. This is going to dox me a little bit, but I had a reputation, still have, I guess, but there have been cons left, of I was the guy that would get you into a cab and get you safely back to your hotel. I was that guy. I was, good guy Perch. And I would make sure you got back and, get back in one piece. And sometimes I've gone out to parties or events at cons. And it's probably one of the reasons why I'm probably so passionate and so irritated about some of this stuff. And the person's like, I shouldn't drink. I'm not going to drink. If I don't want to fall off the wagon. I do bad decisions. Last time, 2 years ago, I came to this con. I wound up sleeping with a coworker. It was bad. And so I'm like, okay, sure. All right. So you want me to kind of, keep you company? Fine. By the way, for what it's worth, in my head, I'm thinking that's going to be a lousier time for me. I'm going to have to be keeping one eye on you while at the same time trying to enjoy this old fashioned here. And I'm not really, that sounds like a worse time for me. But you asked, and I'm a good Marine. I'll put you over my shoulder. I'll help you out. So we get to the party, and or the event, and 20 minutes into this thing, I look over, and this person's got a margarita in their hand. I'm like, hey, what do you? Hey, do you want me to take that for you? I'll drink it. I mean, hell, I'll drink a margarita. So I'm like, oh, do you want me to take that and drink it? And like, no, I'm good. I know my limits. I know limits. Like, no, hang on. An hour and a half ago, you said that you were a recovering alcoholic. You wanted no alcohol. And now you're saying you know your limits and you can have one or two margaritas. You'll be fine. That's a shift. You've shifted. At the same time, I'm not like a complete buzzkill. And I do have this element in my life. Look, if you ask me to help, I'll help you. If you then reject the help and you do dumb shit, I'm gonna, you're on your own, pal. I do have a you're on your own policy. Like if you're gonna do this to yourself, then you're doing it to yourself. And that has happened many times. All these things are kind of unforced errors. They make me angry in terms of person-to-person contact. It's also hard when you see comic companies do things that, like a college level marketing intern would not do. You see press releases with spelling errors. You see, it does irritate me, and I'm sure it irritates me more than most. The fact that they brought John Kent out as bisexual weeks after bringing Tim Drake out. Tim Drake is a pretty major character in DC. John Kent is a newer character, but still major character in DC. Why would you do that? One right after the other like that. You're hurting your own strategy. Like, I know this makes people crazy, and I know that there are people who have certainly taken the piss out of me in comments and on videos and other places for my stance on this stuff. But I think if you're going to try and execute a strategy, even if I disagree with the strategy, then I do want you to do it well. I want you to do it competently. And some of this stuff, it's the very definition of an unforced error. It's the guy who, it's the Frank Gogol who posts his legal proceedings up on Twitter. It's the Source Point Press that comments on how they're dropping him by retweeting his stuff. It's just like, this stuff is stupid. And I hope that, by the way, the videos, and I appreciate those of you who've come into the comments and have said, there's a couple of you who came into that recent video and go, I didn't listen to all this video. I just dropped out in the middle of it because I don't really want to put myself through stupid like this. I appreciate that. You guys are great. And I totally understand. Why does anybody want to watch stupid? And unfortunately, in comics, and trust me, as somebody who is a retailer, who has a vested interest, who has money wrapped up, even now with a comics shop on hiatus, I still have plenty of money wrapped up in comics. It doesn't give me joy to watch people shoot themselves in the head. And by the way, shooting yourself in the head takes many different formats. Sometimes it's the big two. Sometimes I know this is not going to make me any hero to a bunch of people, but a lot of these crowdfunding efforts that go on, there's plenty of unforced errors there as well. There's plenty of people who have a comic, they develop it on their own, they get their own marketing, they're doing it on their own, and they spend a good portion of their time making up stupid shit about Marvel or DC or just various enemies they have there. Like, why are you doing that? All you're doing is making yourself look more phony. That's all you're doing. You're not building your brand anymore. Instead, you're going after others. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I am a huge proponent right now of indie comic creators who say, you know what, we're going to do it on our own. We're going to do our own crowdfunding stuff. We're going to do our own. So we're going to, whatever it happens, whatever form that takes, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's an indie company, whether it's doing something on Substack, who knows? I am a huge, huge advocate to more comics, less barriers, getting your stuff out. I think it's wonderful. So more, please. But when you go do those more things, if you constantly have one foot back in the old world, in the world that kicked you out or made you unhappy or whatever else, all you're doing is hurting yourself. That's it. All you're doing is leaving one limb behind in this old world. You may think it's funny, you may think it's just a joke, you may think it's not serious, you may think all kinds of things. Whatever you think, you are hurting yourself by living in that old world. Move on. Especially if you have some success in crowdfunding. Move the fuck on. Stop living in that old world. It's not helping you. All it's doing is poisoning you slowly, poisoning you with hatred or bitterness. I mean, do people realize how petty they sound sometimes? I mean, just get away from it. And I look, whatever. You may be reading into this however you want of who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any person, just generically. I see some really talented people out there doing really amazing stuff. But then I see them constantly looking back over their shoulder to the old world. And, none of that's helping you. None of that's actually moving you forward. You're just reminding people of the past. You're just keeping one thing forward. And as much as you might say, again, it's all just fun and games. It's all just me I'm punking on this old stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like poison you're electing to keep in your body. Purge it. Purge it, move on. If you have the ability to make it on your own, go forth and make it on your own. Stop voluntarily injecting yourself with more poison. I hate arrogance. This question was what annoys me. I absolutely hate people who are full of themselves. And I will tell you right now, I have opinions. I have strong opinions, everything else. I am no better than anyone at all. And I think that a lot of people in comics, they get one tiny little taste of celebrity, whether it's they're put on a panel or they're called a stormbreaker or whatever dumb shit Marvel's coming up with now, or they're part of a writing class or whatever it happens to be. They get a bunch of people on a live stream. They get a bunch of super chats. Who knows what form it takes. Ego is like the fastest way to alienate me from you forever. If you come out and you just can't stop patting yourself on the back, it's gross. You're not Diamond Dallas Page. Just all of like two people got that reference. I think with comics, it is a labor of love. It is something that if you're truly an artist or a writer or creator and you're coming out and you're trying to put out your own stuff and you're trying to create this vision and do something amazing and do something cool with it, and you have a picture in your head, whether you're the true writer, artists, or people who are both, they can imagine something in their mind. They close their eyes and they see the scene, this moment, and they think to themselves, I'm going to take that, I'm going to put it on a page, I'm going to deliver it out into the world, and hopefully thousands, hundreds of thousands, if they're lucky, see this thing and they share my vision. There's something romantic and pure and amazing about that. And that is absolutely its own reward. If you're living in that world and you get caught up in this, look, this tweet got 200 likes. That, again, it's the poison. It's the arrogance, it's the ego, it's the self-absorption. It does nothing but send you backward. It is the cancer. And I think if there's one thing that kind of underlines so many problems in comics, it's ego. For years and years and years, you've seen creators, you've seen publishers. I mean, Marvel has a reputation as being an arrogant bunch of pricks to work with. You go to any retailer, you go to any con, you go to distributor. Yeah, I mean, hell, if you get Diamond and you get some people there and you talk about who's the publisher that is the biggest pain in the ass to work with, once you get over the erotic thrill of the fact that Marvel is working with you, you realize that a lot of those people are just pure assholes. I've had people from Marvel tell me to my face, well, we can get away with it because we're Marvel. If you ever find yourself at any point in your life saying, I can get away with being a douchebag, with being an arrogant prick because I'm me, you got to know what you sound like. Self-awareness would be an amazing thing in a lot of these cases. And too many people spend an immense amount of time patting themselves on the back, and they trick themselves, by the way, by going, hey, I know I'm patting myself on the back here, but because I'm aware of it, it's okay. Because everybody knows that this is just a joke. I'm actually a very modest, humble guy, but I'm also the most amazing person on the planet. Everybody knows that. Aha, I'm just joking. Not really, though, but wink. Yeah, I'm really very talented, but not really. I'm very, very humble. Wink. Like, come on. You're just an asshole at that point. I can't stand that. I understand that arrogance is a brand for some people. I understand that I think there's a codependent personality that seems to flock to these kind of people, but those people who carry themselves that way drive me absolutely fucking crazy. I try my best never to associate with them. I don't help them. And every single time, by the way, the people who get completely caught up in that, they flame out and completely evaporate within 5 years. Every fucking time. Every time. And what's really sad is that, like, the sixth and the seventh year, where the person has completely self-destructed, everybody is aware they're a LOL cow, and they're not aware. So they're still marching around like they're something important, and they don't realize that everyone is mocking them. And there are definitely a number of people within comics that way. I think that if you are in this business, be glad that you're in this business. If you're making money, if you're not making any money, don't. I mean, whatever. But you have an amazing opportunity. And when I watch people, and there are plenty of people in comics, by the way, who are making these stories, they're doing the best they can. They want to get paid. They want to have a good time. They want to, get their vision out into the world. But they don't expect that you parade around them like there's some kind of deity. Those are the good people. Go with those people. Let's see, other things that annoy me. I don't like the whole penciler inker combined into one thing. I think that's really, really screwed up the art in a lot of cases. It's not as good almost every time. There's a couple people that have pulled it off. Definitely. There are a couple people who can, but a lot of people don't. And everything looks cheaper and worse. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Emerald City Comic Con up in Seattle. I will be there. It's going to be one of my last events up in Seattle for a while. So I'm very much looking forward to hanging out with some people, buying you a beer. If you're able to figure out who I am, cool. Come find me. It'll be great. But in general, comic books are wonderful. And I guess the last thing that really irritates me, annoys me about comics and about this whole space is that we spend a lot of our time, including me. I annoy myself all the time. We spend a lot of time talking about aspects of this thing that should be just 100% happiness and love and appreciation and excitement. And instead, we get wrapped up in this silly, stupid nonsense. I hate that. I wish, this absolutely will not matter to anyone. But for those of you out there on Twitter who are really caught up in your clicks and your block bots and everything else, how about you just, fucking forget it? Drop the blocks, drop the attitude. Just talk about the comics you're on and try and be a decent human being. There are pricks out there, absolutely. There's the people who come into these videos and are like, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, what if this jackass who comes in is like, you don't promote your comic enough? I mean, dude, fine. Then don't buy it. Yeah, I'll be Kelly Sue DeConnick here. You don't like it, don't buy it. It's okay. We're trying to do the best thing we can here. We're trying to put something out for free. If it's not up for you, then that's cool. Just don't. Just don't. It's all right. If you like it, cool. Buy it. If it appeals to you, that's all it happens to be. You don't need to come in and bitch about how everybody's doing everything. Just run your own life good for a change. How about that? Run your own life as best you can and shut the fuck up about the rest of it. I'm team fuck all y'all. That's my t-shirt. No, I don't mean that. I'd buy everybody a beer. I'll even the dumbasses. The last video on this channel is I'm going to fly out. I'm going to find out where Mumbles is. He and I are going to sit down. We're going to put Arby's on the table and a beer. And we're going to drink the beer. We're going to eat the Arby's. And then we're going to just make out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that part. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're going to have a manly fist fight. And that will be the final video on this channel. All right. You asked the question. I've now spent 20 plus minutes talking about it. This interests all of 4 of you. But thanks for listening. Hey, if you made it all the way to this video, let me know that. The secret word is, I don't know, parakeet. There you have it. Thanks for listening.